Hi everybody, Judy Seeger here, trained traditional naturopath. Welcoming you back to another online TV show, CancerAnswers.tv. I know I haven't done one for a while, but couldn't pass this one up. I met these good folks at a women's expo and was very, very impressed with the work they do, and I know you guys will as well. I'm always researching and looking for stuff for you guys, and this is top of the line stuff. So we're going to get into something that will help you folks not only for cancer prevention, but those of you who have cancer and looking for something that will monitor to see what's going on, and not just for cancer, actually for lots of different things that are going on. So today we are here with Dr. Michelle and Dr. Ray. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
So happy you guys are here.
Yes.
And we are going to get into a little bit. I want to introduce you guys. We're all down in Florida right now. And I want to introduce you guys what they do, and then we're going to talk about the big topic for today. So first of all, Dr. Michelle, tell me a little bit about what you do and what's going on here in your office.
Well, we're an integrative clinic. We combine the best of the East and the best of the West, and what I mean by that is I do Oriental medicine, so acupuncture, herbs. I am a certified thermographer. Dr. Ray specializes in whole food nutrition, glandular therapy, things of that nature. And so we really feel that that's kind of the old part of the Western medicine, where they really look at food as being therapy instead of drugs. So we combine those together, and we feel like we really give our patients the best opportunity to heal naturally.
Okay, great. So I got lots of questions about that I know might go on, because you just said a whole bunch of things, and it's like, whoa, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about. Dr. Ray, and what is it that you do here other than looking handsome?
That's about it. She's the brains of the operation. I'm just the eye candy.
Okay, there you go.
Now, inside the clinic, I do, as Dr. Michelle said, some of the nutritional consulting along the lines of the old school approach, functional Western medicine. And that goes back to the time of the Greeks, actually. Everybody's heard that Hippocrates saying, "Let thy food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be thy food." One of my favorites from Hippocrates that almost no one has heard of is, "He who does not know food, how can he know the diseases of man?" So Greek medicine, which is the foundation of Western medicine, was all based on food therapy, nutritional therapy. So that's pretty much what I do in here, and then also working with helping to build her business with regards to some of the other nutritional supplements that we do, and then outside the clinic doing some of the public speaking and the events that we met you at and things like that.
Yeah, so we're at a women's expo, and I was stopping at every single booth, and these are the only ones that I was impressed with, so that means you know it's quality stuff, right? All right, so Dr. Michelle, we have to get into our big topic, which is thermography. First of all, why did you get into thermography? What was the draw there?
Well, it spoke to me because of it being all natural, and I really feel that it is what gives the patient the head start on their health. It gives them a view of kind of what's going on the inside that maybe they're not connecting with the symptom. So inflammation can be really silent, right? We can have lots of inflammation and not really have any one thing that sticks out, kind of goes like, oh, I've got inflammation. So when they get to see the scans, it's kind of a wake-up call. They kind of go like, wow, I need to do something about that. I need to make some lifestyle changes. I need to make some nutritional changes. Maybe we need to do some lab work to get further investigative information with respect to what's going on. But it's just a great tool for anybody's healthcare regimen to help them live a better and healthier life.
That's interesting, because normally I work with people who have got serious diseases, and they're looking for something that is very accurate, that could monitor, and thermography is something they don't know much about. They always right away go to mammographies, and it's like, they don't know the difference. So let's explain, let's start out first of all, what is a thermogram and what does it do exactly?
Okay, so a thermogram or a thermography is infrared imaging with an infrared camera, and so we're looking for a heat marker in the body, okay? So when we do a scan, we're doing it in a controlled temperature room, and we allow the body to cool off on the outside so that the internal temperatures can show through, okay? We're looking for heat signatures, like I said, in the body, which will give us an indication that there's added blood flow in the area. And when it comes to any type of bad tissue, that's what it needs in order to grow. It needs its own blood source in order to replicate. You know, cancer being the worst of those tissues, obviously. So we look for certain vascular patterns, and then beyond the vascular patterns, we look for the actual temperature of those anomalies in the body. And then we look for symmetries from right to left. Is there a symmetrical pattern from both sides? And if there is, then that just might be how the patient presents. If there is not a symmetrical pattern, that sends up a red flag. And then we look at temperature differentials from side to side. And if there's more than a 2 degrees difference, then that also sends up another red flag. Meaning that there's something that needs to be further clinically correlated with regards to that scan. You know, and then we just go on into the future. So once we have a baseline scan, then we look at things that we can do to change the tissue, have a positive impact on it, and then we compare that to future scans and see what happens with the temperatures.
Okay, so you all did a lot of doctor speak there, so let's get it down to me.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I know my people, and they're like, what did she just say about this vascular thing? And so what is, when you're saying vascular differences or difference in color, because that's the first thing everybody sees, what does that mean exactly? Is it just inflammation? Is there a block there? Is there a tumor growing? What is it that people have to be looking for?
Okay, so the spectrum of color goes from white to black.
Okay.
Okay, white is the hottest and black is the coldest. And thermography can see the whole spectrum. So it can see black, meaning cold, which is going to indicate a blockage. And it can see white, meaning hot, which is going to mean there's a lot of inflammation in that area. And then the whole color spectrum in between. Green is balanced. We like to see a lot of green. Does that kind of answer the question
okay, so
a little
let's
bit?
go down. So green, so that, because when you see all these different colors, that's what people get confused. So green is good. What's yellow?
It's going to be warmer.
Warmer. Okay, is that something a little bit maybe indicative of inflammation?
Beginnings.
Okay, beginnings. Okay,
yes.
so that'd be like the first step. Then. And then what about blue?
Blue is cold.
Blue, is that good?
It depends on the part of the body, because fat tissue is cold.
Okay.
Fat is going to, adipose tissue, fat is going to show cold, because it doesn't have any blood.
Right.
Unless it's got something bad going.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So, for instance, breast tissue. The base of a woman's breast tissue is usually made up of fat.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And that does show usually the coldest part of the breast.
Okay.
Okay?
So we got the blues, and then the yellows and the greens, and then what happens with the reds?
The reds are definitely inflammation, hot. Okay? Now there are certain areas that are just going to present that way. Cavities. Okay, so the inner corners of the eye are always going to be hot. It just is that way on everybody. The underarm areas are going to be hot. Well, that's where we sweat from. We would expect that. Plus your arms are down all the time, so there's a lot of heat there. The underbelly of the breast tissue, where it connects with the abdomen, the two tissues are laying together, so that's always going to be hot. Okay.
But is that something that they should worry about when
No.
they see that? Because that's a lot of times when I see thermograms, there's a lot of red underneath the breast and the arm, just like you just said, and then they're worried. They say, well, maybe there's some lymphatic congestion already going on, inflammation, but that's not necessarily true.
So if there was lymphatic congestion, we would see it running down the sides more below the armpit area. So it would be, below the actual pit area. It would be more along the side of the breast where the lymph glands are located. Okay. So we would see more red, and oftentimes we see white spots, which are the actual lymph glands that are all inflamed.
Oh, so when they see the white spots on there, then it is an inflammation of the lymph node that they have to be paying attention to.
That's what we look at first, yes.
So how accurate is it compared to, let's say, a mammogram?
Well, you're not comparing apples to apples, okay? So a mammogram does exactly what it's supposed to do. It sees structure. The problem is that a mammogram can't detect whether a structure is good or bad. So a thermogram sees heat and cold. And we know that when tissue is bad tissue, like cancer, and it's replicating, and I spoke about the vascularity, and what that means is it needs its own blood source in order to grow and replicate. So that blood actually gets created so that cancer can replicate. When that happens, it increases the heat signature of that area. Okay? So that in itself gives us an indication that that's going in the wrong direction.
So because women ask all the time, well, why would I get a thermogram, which is maybe accurate, maybe not, whereas they're told that the mammogram is accurate and it does detect tumors and calcification. I mean, this is what they're told. So, you know, we're trying to differentiate, you know, why they should choose a thermogram versus a mammogram. So,
okay,
how would you answer that? Because
there's no negatives with a thermogram. There's no radiation, there's no compression, there's no pain. It has a higher sensitivity rating at 97% versus a mammogram is 83. Mm-hmm. It has been proven to detect changes in tissue 8 to 10 years before a mammogram can show anything is there in that area. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, none of the screening procedures diagnose pathology. So for them to say that it sees tumors or whatever, that's, to me, that's saying that it's diagnosing that there's a tumor there. Mm-hmm. It does not, mammograms don't diagnose pathology and thermograms don't diagnose pathology. Right. Neither one of them do. Mm-hmm. Mammogram sees structure. That's exactly what it does. That's all it does. A thermogram sees heat. It's just a lot more safer, like you said. There's no radiation. There's no compression. There's nothing that's harmful with the thermogram. Right. Yeah.
I think one of the things that's important to me is the time difference when we talk about comparing thermograms to mammograms. Dr. Michelle talks about it seeing a structure. A mammogram needs to see a structure. For it to see that structure, it has to be millions and millions of cells, which means it's been growing for years and years and years, maybe 8 to 10 years. That's what the research shows. Thermogram, on the other hand, sees the beginning of blood flow to a growing tumor when it's only maybe 2 or 3 or 400 cells. And so now the patient has an 8 to 10 year head start, and if they need to take something, they just take that. As opposed to the other way around, now the disease has an 8 to 10 year head start, and the patient's options are extremely limited. Right. You either take everything or chemotherapy or radiation, their options are extremely limited.
So why aren't thermograms more known out there? This is what people always asking me. They say, how come it's not around and they're so hard to find and where are they? And you know, they're confused. Why is the media not promoting thermograms? You guys know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to answer that?
Follow the money. There's more money in mammography. I think a gal had just told me the other day her portion for her mammogram was $350. Her portion. The total bill was $1,500.
Wow.
When we do a breast scan series here, it's $200. Many times there's a discount involved, so it's less than $200.
Wow.
So there's really a huge amount of money to be made, and I'm going to try to be nice by saying somebody's got to pay for that expensive mammogram equipment.
Oh yeah, this is a show. You don't have to be nice. No, tell the truth. They wanna know. It is. Yeah, the insurance companies, everybody's got to make a buck on it.
But here's the flip side of that. When it comes to insurance, insurance doesn't cover it currently. They did in the past, and they will in the future. And the reason they will is because eventually they'll see the science and the research behind it that says, look, this is preventative. This is proactive. It's going to save us a ton of money on the back end, and we won't have to pay for unnecessary mastectomies, chemotherapies, lumpectomies, radiotherapy. We won't have to pay for any of that stuff. And, oh, by the way, we can charge another premium up front, so we'll make money on both ends. They'll cover thermography. I give it a couple of years for the same reasons they finally got around to covering chiropractic.
Yeah, and the thing is people are just need to be understanding not only the advantage of it, but where they could find you. So if they were in Florida, where would they find you guys? Where are you located?
We're at 9050 58th Drive East.
Which is near Sarasota?
Yes, we're in Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton area, off of State Road 70, just east of 75.
Right, so you fly into Sarasota, Tampa, and you see these guys. And actually, there's a lot of people here in Florida.
A lot of great information on the website.
I think you're right. And what's the website?
CIMwellness.com.
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 Okay, we'll have that on our email and on the TV show for you guys to check them out for sure. You got a lot of information on there. So let's go back to the whole thermogram issue. That the other thing people are concerned about is as far as reading it from the first time and then monitoring. Let's say someone is just going for prevention, because a lot of times women want to know what's going on. And they want to know, do they have to do repeats of this, or is it just a one-time, or how does that all work?
Typically, annual screening is the way it goes.
Okay.
I do have patients that have relatively healthy breast tissue, and sometimes they don't come in every year, and I'm okay with that because you know they are very in tune with their bodies and they just get it. But people that actually have things going on, fibrocystic tissue, painful breasts, you know, things of that nature, if they have breast cancer in their family, we always recommend that you come in for an annual screen. It's a small price to pay for peace of mind. It really is, and there's no harm.
Right. So walk us through, Dr. Michelle, as far as when they come in, what exactly is involved?
Okay. So first of all, they would be emailed some paperwork that they would have to complete. There's usually a questionnaire that follows or, you know, comes with the thermogram. So we get a little bit of history on them, what's going on. Do they have anything in their family history that we need to be concerned about? They get a protocol that they need to follow 48 hours before they have the scan. So there's just little things. It's nothing over the top, but don't come in with a sunburn or don't be running a fever. So we don't want...
You don't want the heat to be picked up,
right?
Okay.
The day that they come in, they actually will come into the thermographic lab, and I have a private lab here at my clinic. So, and what that means is you're not standing in front of an individual who's manually running a camera. Mine is automated. It's run by a computer. So they'll be brought into the thermographic lab, and there they will acclimate for 15 minutes without their clothes on the area that's going to be scanned. So thermography can be used for not only breast tissue, it can be used for the whole body. But if they're coming in for a breast scan, they would disrobe from the waist up, and they would sit there for 15 minutes and acclimate to the temperature in the room, which has to be in a controlled atmosphere. Anything below, well, 68 to 70 is usually the temperature. After the 15 minutes, I come in and we resume with the scan. The scan itself for a breast exam is less than 10 minutes. It's very, very quick, especially with an automated system. From there, the scan gets uploaded to the lab. The scan is then read by board-certified MDs, and then they send it back to me. And once I get it back, I call the patient and invite them to come back in for a report of findings, and all those things are covered in the fee up front. There are no hidden costs. And then from there, depending on what the scan says, if there are things that we need to look at further, I would then refer them for an ultrasound or an MRI.
Okay, so that's simple. I mean, that's like a
Very
no-brainer.
simple.
And very reasonable. Go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes from the MDs, they're the ones that would, getting back to your question on follow-up,
Right.
you know, they may say, you know, everything looks fine, come back in a year. They may say everything looks okay, come back in 6 months. Maybe we see something, maybe 3 months. Maybe we see something, maybe you should go for an ultrasound.
How are the doctors as far as thermogram? Are they for it? Are they bucking you guys a little bit? Or how's the relationship with that?
They're resistant to it, and I think the reason they're resistant to it is because they're getting fed misinformation about it. That it's unreliable, that it's this, that it's that, when actually it's the complete opposite. There are no false positives with a thermogram, whereas 80% of the time a mammogram will say a woman has cancer when she doesn't.
Right.
There are no
What
false...
was the percentage on that?
80% of the time.
80%.
20% of the time a mammogram will say that you're perfectly fine when you're not. And we've seen on the radiology reports on mammograms a disclaimer that says 15% of the time mammograms don't detect cancer at all. That doesn't happen with thermography.
Right. That's too bad that the docs are not on board, but hopefully sooner or later some of them will start getting the hang of it and know that it does help the women. So it just takes time, like everything.
It's a grassroots type of thing. We educate the patients. We do workshops here at the clinic on a regular basis. We do the events where we met you, and then the patients may say, you know, doc, you know, what do you know about thermography? I got this information. Maybe I'd like to try that. And if the doc is open-minded, which is hopeful, he might make a call and want to learn a little bit more about it. Or when they get the report, the patient gets a copy of the report. Take this to your medical doctor. If they have any questions, we'd be more than happy to put them in touch with our MD.
Right, right. Okay, so you brought up something that I thought was interesting, is you said sometimes people want maybe like a whole body thermogram to be done. Why would they want to do that?
Because we're going to have inflammation all over the place. So in the abdomen, we can see digestive issues. There are certain patterns that are emitted that can give us a clue to food allergies that the patient may not be aware of or even thought of.
So wait, just because that's interesting to me. So when there's inflammation in the stomach, what would be indicative that it means there's a food allergy going on?
A modeling pattern that's emitted on the scan or on the surface of the abdomen. So it's kind of like a leopard pattern. It's difficult to describe. And then and that's in the gray scale. And then when you put the medical grade scale on it, which would be the colored scale, you would see lots of little inflammation, blotchy pieces of inflammation.
Wow.
The other thing with extremities, we can see underlying varicose veins or circulation problems that are not yet emerged.
Wow.
So if we look
so
at
varicose veins would show up on the thermogram and not be on the skin.
Correct.
Wow, that's interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
We can see if someone has blood sugar problems by a pattern that is emitted on their hands. It's called a glove pattern, and it's where the hand presents very, very hot. Usually people's hands are cold. Their fingers are black in a scan. They're so cold. But when somebody has blood sugar issues, their whole hand will be on fire.
Wow. So all these little things could add up to something that people don't know what it is, don't understand, and here the thermogram could show all of that.
Right. Carotid artery inflammation, thyroid inflammation.
So once you see that, then you sit down and obviously then you do a consult and figure out what would be a game plan for them to fix the problem.
Absolutely.
And here they think they come for one thing and it's really
Well, the time advantage, when you can catch those types of patterns so early, your options are wide open. You can make dietary changes, lifestyle changes, nutritional, even just the knowing that you're that far ahead of the game is phenomenal. It's
Don't
huge.
you find people confused about what's wrong with them? They think they're having one issue when really there's an underlying issue, and this thermogram sounds like it would help them so much more to figure that root issue out instead of jumping from one supplement to one therapy to another and being really lost as far as what they need to do.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
It's very empowering for people to have that light bulb moment, because you know, it's one thing to sit in front of a patient and go, well, you have this and you have that, and based on the symptoms that you've told me, you're this and you're that. But when you can actually show them a picture, it just brings it to a whole nother level. All of a sudden, boy, you must really know what you're talking about. There's a credibility, issue that comes up, and they just have more confidence in what you are recommending to them if you can actually say, look, you've got a lot of inflammation here. I'm not just saying this, I'm presenting it. There you go.
Yeah, so once they see that and then you start working with them, I know it depends on what's wrong, but let's say the cold hands, cold feet, because that does come up really often. How soon after you've been working with them should they have another thermogram, just because people like to monitor, you know how it is. How soon after they need to get a recheck on that?
If I'm actually actively treating them, let's say with Chinese medicine, doing acupuncture, herbs, maybe some nutritional supplements, usually I do follow-up scans like 3 months.
Oh, okay, 3 months. All right. Yeah.
And then, after they are done with care or ready to graduate, then I always recommend, it never hurts to have an annual screening done on the areas that maybe caused you some concern in the past. If, we did a body scan and didn't see any circulation issues and there was no blood sugar issues, but they had some digestive things going on, I might say, you know what, just come in every year and let's recheck your abdomen and see what's going on. Are you still moving in the right direction, or, are things going back to the way they were before?
Right, that's excellent. All right, so again, if they want to get a hold of you guys and make an appointment and do a thermogram and get into the program, where would they contact you?
Well, the phone number is 941-752-4838. That's probably the most direct way. The website is also another way to get in touch with us, cimwellness.com. Probably the most direct way is to give us a call.
Okay, and you have your email on there as well. I have a big email crowd. You have the email on the website?
The email address would be cimwellness@gmail.com.
There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, cimwellness@gmail.
At gmail.com.
All right, so that was great. I learned a lot on that section there, but I also understand you guys use some protanum in working with people. So there's a lot of controversy going on the internet about it. First of all, tell us a little bit, Dr. Ray, about what it is, what it does, what you have found, and give us the whole lowdown.
Well, we were first introduced to it about 2 years ago, And at that time, the gentleman that introduced us to it didn't do a very good job. When I asked him, is there any science behind it, he didn't have any available. When I asked him who is behind it, he didn't have any of that information available. We did like the formula. It's 5 herbs, and that fits with the Chinese medicine philosophy. And he did give us a sample. I asked for samples for about a week's worth because I test them out on a machine called an acoustic cardiograph, which is a high-tech stethoscope, and it just graphs out how heart function works. And if there's something good, it'll improve heart function. If something doesn't really make any change, it doesn't change heart function. If something is bad, it'll actually impair or decrease heart function. And this product was one of the few that actually improved heart function, so we thought this was interesting. You fast forward to about 6 months ago, we were reintroduced to it after I had spoken at an event here, and this individual, when I asked is there any science behind it, he said, I can do you one better. I can bring a doctor down who's been using the product for 3 years in his 3 clinics with 900 plus patients. He has science and he also has blood work. They also showed us an ABC primetime investigative report that was done on the doctor behind it and the product itself, which was all very, very impressive. So it's a dietary supplement that has been shown to reduce oxidative stress 40% in 30 days, 70% in 120 days. And what the research has been saying for decades now is that oxidative stress is central to hundreds of diseases. And oxidative stress is the result of free radical damage. And people are typically very familiar with free radicals and the type of damage that they do.
What are the herbs that are in there?
Bacopa, milk thistle, green tea, turmeric, and ashwagandha.
Okay, and the company that put it together, they're here in the States or they're somewhere?
They're here in the States. They're in Utah. The company's name is Life Vantage. And they produce it, and we're very, very excited about it because we're beginning to see that this could live up to the billing that the media has given it, Wall Street Journal, PBS, etc., that it could be a medical breakthrough in hundreds of diseases.
What have you guys been seeing?
Well, I will only speak from my own personal experience. I've noticed improvements in recall and in retention, and which I used to get teased quite a bit about, having lack thereof. We have patients that comment on things that are relatively substantial to things that are, I just feel better. And we've been very, very pleased, and we can see big things on the horizon.
Excellent. So, all right, guys. So we're going to take a break, and then we're going to go down. The lab is, you said, here, right? I'm going to take a picture of that lab and take you guys behind the scenes. So, first of all, again, your website?
CIMwellness.com.
CIMwellness.com. Folks, get on there. If you're ever in Florida, take a trip. It's winter. Come on down. They'll take care of you, no problem. And now we're going to go behind the scenes and check out that lab. So I'll see you guys in the next video.